Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 17th meeting of the Webster Board of Education. Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic and
which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. We have a couple special guests that are going to help us kick off this meeting. And we want to begin with a giant thank you to all involved for this unusual yet very welcome beginning to the school year. And I've heard from neighbors and kids just running down the street, happy and smiling, and they are just so happy to be back to school, whatever that looks like for them. So thanks to all involved for your efforts in making that happen. I think we will move to our superintendent's report regarding the opening of school, and then we can jump back to our celebration on the agenda.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, thanks.
So I first want to make sure that as we get ready to celebrate our two Oak Tree winners, Tam Rochelle from Plank South and Joan Bardanis from Thomas High School, they're about to be recognized by Wendy Sardella and Umbreen Mustafa, who represent PTSA and also the WTA. It's a wonderful award that's given every year, and I'm so glad that both Joan and Tamara are here tonight. Tamara and I have known each other a long time, probably going back to when I first became an assistant principal at State Road back in 2001. Yeah, 2001, Tam. It goes back that far, almost 20 years. And Tamara has been one of the master teachers. I can't believe all that she had done for me as an administrator, as she taught me how kids learn how to read, because I was a high school guy. I came in and so Tamara was so patient with me, talking to me about literacy and phonics and comprehension and fluency. So Tam, I've never forgotten that. So thank you very much. And this is a well-deserved award. So over the last, today was day six of classes, whether they're in person or remote. I got to visit all 11 schools a couple of times now. We do have a 100% remote option that 13% of our students are taking advantage of. So 13% of our 8,400 kids, a little bit over, I think, 1,200 students that are fully remote right now. And then obviously we have the hybrid model, where our middle school and high school kids are coming on Monday, Thursday, or they're coming Tuesday, Friday. And then on Wednesdays, everyone Zooms in for mini classes. And that was yesterday. I wasn't sure how that would go because almost every district that I know of is having a Wednesday remote day for their in-person learners. So I wasn't sure about the bandwidth on the BOCES servers. But from what I'm understanding, it went really well. There were no major glitches, so that's all really good. In terms of what our models are like, if anyone wants some more information, there is information on our website, websterschools.org /reopening. So on that page, there's a whole bunch of great links and great information if anyone wants to take a look at that. And Miss Land, Erin Land, who is our Director of Elementary Education, designed a return to school handbook, which is a living document because she does edit this probably on a weekly basis. And that's on there as well. So you can look at procedures and protocols and processes that, so in case parents or staff members have questions, the answers hopefully are within that handbook. So I also got to visit, I got to visit in classes. I also got to visit some students that were on the remote, the 100% remote model. And they invited me over to their house. So that was a blast. I got invited into, which I didn't do, but I got invited in to play with their Tonka trucks and their Legos. but I've made another date to do that because I love Tonka trucks and Legos. So, but our kids are, I think, as Umbreen said just before we came on air or went live, because Umbreen has 2 children in our district that are still in our district. And I think our students are really happy to be back. And they're happy to see each other. They're happy to certainly see their teachers again. It is definitely not, as we all know, it's certainly not normal. It's our new normal, right? Which I'm sure we're all tired of hearing that phrase. But I think they're still getting used to, and I think we all are still getting used to, having the masks and talking and being heard. The level of noise, certainly in the middle schools and in the 2 high schools, it's definitely it's sort of quiet in the hallways. Because think about it, we only have about 45% of our kids in school in person at any one time, when you factor out the remote students. And so you just don't have the volume of students and the volume of noises, I guess. So we're getting used to that because it is definitely quieter than I would like as a classroom teacher. I loved having noise. I loved having an undercurrent of student conversation. So, but I think that energy will start to ramp up, especially as sports begin for JV and varsity in a couple of weeks. I know Miss Bardanis just came in, and Joni, if you don't mind, or Tammy, if you don't mind, if I can have like another 3 or 4 minutes, then we can go right to the Oak Tree winners. Is that okay, Tammy?
And circle back to you. That's absolutely fine. So welcome to Wendy Sardella and Umbreen Mustafa, who are going to lead us through the presentation of the highly esteemed Oak Tree Award, and talk about our 2 winners this year. Ladies, if you would.
Umbreen, would you like to start?
So I would just like to say thank you. I represent the recognition committee for PTSA, and on behalf of all of us at PTSA and the Webster Teachers Association, the Oak Tree Award is a process that takes quite a bit of time and energy. There's a committee that reviews all the applications, and of course there are the students and families that submit the applications and nominate the teachers, and then there are certain duties that the teachers who have been nominated also have to fulfill. It's a lot of great effort on the part of the committee, and so thank you to Wendy, you, and all the people who supported this process, and a hearty congratulations to the winners. And with that, I will let you, Wendy, introduce the winners and give a little background on them and why they were chosen.
Thank you. The Oak Tree has been going on, I think this is going to be the 20th year. And so every year this is open to, there are some criteria. It's open to some exemplary teachers in our district. One of the criteria is that the person needs to be full-time. They need to have been teaching in the district for 5 years, and it's an individual award. So it's a once-in-a-lifetime honor. You can be honored once in a lifetime during your career. So that's, a lot of times people have won it and they've been nominated again. This year was kind of an unusual year. And I think that a lot of the people that went through this process, I think they can attest to that this might have changed or colored the way that they approached the paperwork that went along with it. They need to get letters of recommendation from colleagues, and they need to talk about their philosophy for teaching. There's a lot of things that go with it. The Oak Tree Committee is comprised of 2 elementary teachers, 2 secondary teachers, and 2 PTSA. And we open up. I'm going to open up the nominations, I believe, October 1st for this coming year, and that can be found through Google Forms. And we'll make sure that it is shared out in principal newsletters and PTSA newsletters on our websites. So people should be able to get access to that. So we had some really, really high quality people. Anybody that's nominated really deserves to win. So this year our two recipients are for secondary, Joan Bardanis, and for elementary, Tamara Schell. And we did surprise them in their faculty meetings, or Zoom faculty meetings in May. We jumped on and shared that with everybody. And they have received the other things that go along with that, certificates and a stipend. So this is kind of revisiting that, even though we haven't been able to see them in person and to join them in their classroom, we have acknowledged them in other ways. And I know that there were a couple of people, I know that that Kyle Cefaletto had asked if he could speak on behalf of Joan. And I don't know if Mimi Topping is with us, but if he would like to say a couple of words, I would love to yield the floor to him.
I figured I'd tell you all about my very first interaction with Joni Bardanis. This was probably 6 years ago. Man, I knew who she was, but my first real professional interaction was we were grading ELA exams in January. And when you're grading an ELA exam in January, that exam tends to have higher stakes to it because it's kids taking it either again or for a second, third time, and they need to pass this thing to graduate. And I didn't know her that well then, but we're sitting there in January, we're scoring exams, and we finally finish, and we have it all organized. And then Joni starts going through them all. And I'm thinking, like, what is she doing? Like, we're done, and she's going through and she finds one and she pulls it out. And in my mind, I'm like, I just alphabetized that. No. And she's looking it over, and then she starts crying, right? She starts crying. And I don't know what to do. I'm just looking around like, what's the socially responsible thing to do in this situation? But then she whips her phone out and she calls the kid. And she's crying and she calls the kid and you know, she tells the kid that he passed, he did it. And in that moment, we were getting ready to launch our ICT program. And I thought to myself, that is the woman that I need to work with. I need her in my classroom. And ever since then, we co-taught for about 5 years. And I don't know what I would have done without her. And she has changed the way I view special education and integrating those kids into our classrooms. And just another, you know, she's taking on the GOAL program, the OWL program at Thomas, and, you know, she signs up. And when there's a need, Joan Bardanis, she's the first one there to you know, lend her helping hand. And so when an opportunity came to nominate someone for the Oak Tree, I mean, I jumped at that. So Joni Bardanis, I love you, and you are so worthy of this recognition.
Joni, do you want to say a few words? And then we'll ask Mrs. Sullivan to talk about Ms. Schell.
Okay. Yes, this is my family. Carm, you've seen them all when they were much littler. Thank you, Kyle. I think, you know, the same goes. I think my teaching has changed since working with you. And, you know, when you still love what you do 32 years later, you find yourself incredibly blessed. Not only with what's behind me, but what I get to do every day. So thank you. And Tamara, I am so glad I won it with you because my children have had you. Thank you, and congratulations to you. Kyle, I will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Joni. So Ms. Sullivan or Ms. Doyle, because I don't think I see Ms. Topping here. Would you guys mind introducing Mrs. Schell? And
it would be my honor. So Tamara is that teacher. Carm kind of already said this, that as an administrator, you need to learn things all the time, and you want to learn it the right way so that when you're out doing observations with other teachers and you're helping lift other teachers, you're doing it the right way. And she's the teacher in the building that we go to. Talk about the art of teaching. She's got the science down, but talk about the art of teaching. This is a teacher that knows every child inside and out, both socially, emotionally, and academically, and knows exactly what to do to get the absolute max out of every single kid. It honestly is mind-blowing at times. There will be kids in her classroom that struggled their first couple of years that Tamara gets a hold of, and miraculously these kids start to believe in themselves as learners, and they gain this confidence and they fly. And she's the teacher who, if we have a concern about a kid and we know we need a place where they're going to be loved but pushed and stretched to their limits in a great way, they're going in her class. She is that teacher. It's really, I cannot say enough about her. Not only that, she's a lead teacher, and what she does to lift others in the building as far as mentoring and opening up her classroom and being willing to have people come in and watch her teach and go watch them teach and collaborate. And she does it in this way that's just so caring and not arrogant at all. I don't think she has any clue how great she really is. And she just welcomes everybody in. So I know that our entire building, every single staff member, and really then every single kid has benefited from Tamara and her knowledge, because that's who she is. She spreads it like wildfire, and we are so lucky to have her. So Tamara, there is not a better person to receive this award. Jill, I don't know if you want to say anything too, because I'd love for you to have a chance to talk as well. So.
I'm still crying over here from Joni's. No, I mean, as a former teacher, I did learn so much for Tamara, and I feel like the opportunities to be in her room and to watch her teach are truly some of the highlights of my day. I mean, they taught me so much as a classroom teacher, things that I was so eager to turn around back with my own students. And now in this role, watching how Tamara inspires everybody is truly amazing. We are so incredibly blessed to have you as part of our staff. We are so incredibly blessed to have you on our lead teacher team, helping bring Jen and I articles all the time. Like, I don't know if you guys have read this yet, but I mean, you really are an inspiration, and we are so, so grateful for all that you do for our entire Plank South family. So congratulations, Tamara. As Jen said, there is really no one else that is better suited for this award.
Thank you for all those kind words. And like Joni said, it's so cool when I saw her name come across, for us to like reconnect in this way. It's been pretty cool, but it's just like what you love to do. And it's so neat to be recognized for what you love to do. But also know that there wouldn't be even a fraction of kind of the growth that I've made as an educator without the support of all my colleagues behind me, and administrators and just the district in general. So thank you to everyone that has been kind of along our side in this journey too.
Thank you. Congratulations, Jill and Tamara.
Congratulations, both of you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to Wendy and Umbreen for heralding and pushing this forward. It's always a highlight at the end of the year to celebrate the Oak Tree Award. And as things turn out, maybe this is a really special and wonderful way to start a new year as well.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. And also I'm wondering, will the tradition continue to hang the Oak Tree plaque in the award winners building, as has been done in the past?
As far as we know, we have to have a new plaque made.
Okay.
Because we filled up the plaque. That was part of the tradition, and I believe it should actually be in the recipients' buildings, because I did do that in the spring. So we're going to have to commission a new plaque.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Wendy and Umbreen. It's good stuff.
Thank you for having us.
Now, if you really want to cry, just stick around for our tax warrant and our tax rate discussion. It's awesome.
We're going to need a Kleenex break. Thank you all for joining us so very much. We appreciate your time, your efforts, and all you do for the students of Webster. Have a great evening.
Yep, I still got it. I could clear out a Zoom like I could clear out a room with my reports.
Well, should we circle back to Carm for a few minutes? I think you had a little you wanted to add to your.
So,
okay.
I wanted to sort of give you some updates regarding, regarding our bridge year, right? And as we try to get, we will get through this year with our hybrid model and our remote model. And I think something happened last Friday that, we had our first, in our county, we had our first 2 positive cases among students, not in Webster, but it was in another district. And eventually Webster's going to have 1 or 2 or whatever it's going to be. I mean, I do expect that to happen relatively shortly, to tell you the truth, just based on the science. But in any case, so last week we had 2 positive cases within Monroe County. And the county health department did contact tracing, and they put out a statement, like they will for every positive case. They'll put out a statement regarding the district and the building. But the best part about their statement was something that many people may have overlooked, but it was the most important piece for me. And it actually really made me happy that we are as adamant as we are about face masks and about distance, because they concluded after their contact tracing for these 2 students that no one else had to be quarantined. And the reason was, and they stated this in their release, the reason was it was because everybody around them had a mask on and they were distanced. And because they did that, no one was really exposed. So it was a minimal impact on education in that particular district. And it goes back to, are we going to have a case? Yes, right, and we will. It's just going to happen. But if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we shouldn't really. We're hoping that it's just a blip, and we just continue on with class, and we continue on with everyone coming, into the building, while the people that are positive, they go and they have to quarantine. So this. And I know you guys may get sick of me saying this, but the science really does work. I mean, and it really does have an impact, and that's why New York State has the lowest rate of infection in all of in the entire country, and it's still below 1%. So that's what we need to continue to do. And I want to also I'm so thankful that our parents are. I mean, guys, I have been to all 11 buildings at least twice, talked to teachers, talked to kids. Do they love wearing the mask? No, but they're not complaining about it, and there have been really no issues. We all just sort of know this is how we get back to school. We just have to wear this, and after a while, you just get so used to it. And I think that's what's happening, certainly with the adults. And I know the kids have been fantastic, and the parents have been so wonderful reinforcing that as well. So, and I know that the parents have also been great with filling in the Pick My Kid health screens in the morning before the kids come to school. First day was a little bit bumpy because we were all getting used to the app, and we're still sort of getting used to the app. But there was one particular elementary building that basically every single child was screened and entered into the app before classes on Tuesday. So, and again, it was 100% compliance, if you will. And that is incredibly helpful for us as we try to compress our arrival time from about 20 or 25 minutes. We're trying to get it down to like 15 or 10 because every minute that you grab will be another minute of instructional time. So, and we're, and I think we're on the road to doing that it's because the parents are really doing an amazing job at home. So and I wanted to just end my COVID talk here. If anyone ever has a question about quarantining or about getting tested and symptoms, the county health department has this amazing helpline, and it is 753-5555. I'm going to write about this tomorrow for our Friday thoughts, and I'll be sending that home. But 753-5555, and they are incredibly responsive, and they are incredibly helpful and kind as well. I know that we as a district have been able to use that a couple of different times. So now I began my report with congratulating two individuals, Mrs. Shell and Mrs. Bardanis. I want to end my report by congratulating two more individuals. Two Schrader seniors are among the National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. So two Schrader seniors, and it's Andrew Geiser and Thomas Shannon. And they will now go on to be considered as finalists, and we'll find out the results of that in February. We're just incredibly proud of these young men, and we wish them the best as they move forward. So, and I don't have the exact numbers, like, it's not many semifinalists have been announced across the entire nation. So they are in a very, very select group. So congratulations to them. And Tammy, that ends my report. Thanks for the extra time.
Thanks so much, Carm. And moving on to board business. So in addition to missing Oak Tree, we've missed instructional reports. So we're so happy to have Mr. Alquist and Mr. Neenan with us tonight to tell us what's been going on all summer and what many kids are now experiencing.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Tammy. I appreciate that. It's always an honor to be able to start off the year with the first instructional report to be about professional development. So going back for years, it's always been the first report, partly because we had to do that, because we had to used to submit certain things to the state. Things have tweaked a little bit, but we've kept that at the forefront at the beginning of the year, partly because we're coming right off of the summer, which is where we do a vast majority of our professional development. So we're going to dive in, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. You'll hear more from Greg than you will from me, but I'm going to open it up. So I'm going to ask Greg to share his screen. He could do that. And then we'll have him go into present mode here. And it starts with our vision. It really does. I mean, it's something that we've always been focusing on for a while now. But when it comes to professional learning, always learning is right there at the heart of it. So if you take a look at our indicators that we shared with you last year, and we had developed them now a full year ago last summer, and we introduced them into our system. On the next slide, I'm going to read two of these because I really think you'll know why in a second. A growth mindset. Learning is grappling with uncertainty, making mistakes, and revising to improve. Talk about an uncertain time that we've been living through this entire last 6 months. You've heard all of us, you've heard Carm say that many times, that part of the challenge of this is having to deal with the gray, deal with uncertainty, deal with what we don't know is ahead of us, and doing our absolute best to try and do that. Well, it's like we made this up for this scenario that we're in. So it's super fitting. And then the other one I would say is another one that we highlighted a lot, and you've been hearing from all of us say social and emotional learning is at the key of where we needed to start this year and where we needed to start in order to get everybody back. And again, learning is collaborating and fostering care for self and others. Take care of ourselves in order to take care of our others. And we did a lot of our professional learning using those two stances this summer. Okay, if you take a look at the next slide, you will notice that those pictures are of our new professional learning center. And I am happy to be saying right now that I am reporting live from the professional learning center. That's where I'm at right now. And although there's a few things that we've got to finish and we've got a few finishing touches that we got to put on it, it is a fantastic space that I know the teachers and the staff that have walked by it and seen it have just been super excited to get in to use it. And we will get there eventually, but I'm excited. So, and I know Greg shares that excitement, and so many people that were part of the planning for this to be able to use it. So that's an exciting piece. We talked at the beginning of, it was right around June. We said, let's start out the summer with learning, and let's focus on 3 major areas. And they came from the surveys from teachers and from staff and from feedback and from administrators and principals. And we said, Number one, it's an obvious one, you might think, but again, instructional technology had to be at the heart of what we were doing this summer and spending our resources and our time on making sure if we have to go out or however we were going to prepare for this year, instructional technology needed to be at the heart of that. Same thing is true with equity, diversity, and anti-racism. Those were things that we had been working on as a district before COVID hit, and it definitely wanted to be something that we wanted to make sure we continue to focus on. And we did have a chance to do a lot of that learning and work this summer. And again, like I stated before, the social and emotional learning had to be at the core. It was our foundation for us to be able to launch into this year. So those have been fantastic. Tonight, you're going to hear a little bit more about those professional opportunities that we did this summer with our teachers and our staff. You're also going to hear a little bit about our new teacher and mentoring training and how we tweak that a little bit, knowing the scenario that we're all in. And then professional learning that we're going to be looking at throughout the rest of the year. And also, we always try to remind ourselves that it's not just about the professional learning for our teachers and teacher assistants and teacher aides, but it is also really important that we continue to provide professional learning for our leadership team as well. So those will be the areas that we're going to focus on. And to dive into some of the details, I am now going to mute myself and I'm going to turn things over to Greg. Greg, you're up.
Thanks, Brian. So that these slides really do kind of provide the outline for what we're going to do tonight. So we're going to start with that summer professional learning and then work through those other four, the other three points that we want to highlight for professional learning. So let's start with the summer, and I think it really is worth repeating here that those areas that Brian mentioned, those are going to be threads that you're going to see woven throughout all four of these kind of parts of professional learning. And so let's kick it off here with the summer. And it really was. And I will mention that this summer professional learning marked a real shift in the way that we have offered the summer in the past, because usually it's much more kind of curriculum and instruction based and development. And you can see that we were targeting three areas that were going to help prepare our staff and teachers in particular to be ready for the fall. And that's exactly what we did in offering these three, and they were really received quite well. Let me just give you a couple of numbers to kind of illustrate this. We had 91 different opportunities for teachers and our staff to be able to take advantage of. But it is worth noting that all of the offerings were offered online and done virtually. So all of them had some synchronous kind of element to them, but some were blended learning. So there was some parts that maybe they would kind of kick off. I can cite one good example that they would kind of like kick off a cohort, and then they would do some learning independently. They would come in for a midpoint check-in, do some more learning, and then they would have a final kind of culminating event where they kind of debriefed and actually came with a product. And so this was a real another shift in even how we've delivered professional learning. And I think it really does open the opportunities for more people to take advantage. And that's what this next slide also kind of hints at. Of those 91 opportunities, we kind of budgeted really carefully with our professional learning resources, and we budgeted just under 2,500 spots. And you can see we had 86% of people attend. So it was I think that speaks to the quality of the offerings and the demand that was there. So I was really, really quite encouraged. And it really is also worth highlighting and focusing that many of those 91 opportunities were actually delivered by our own staff for all three of those focus areas, whether it was instructional technology, whether it was that equity, diversity, and anti-racism, or whether it was the social emotional learning. We had a lot of offerings that were presented by our staff and to our staff. So I think that's a real credit to the professionalism we have. But here's another way of kind of illustrating that, kind of following through with those three focus areas that we have. And you can see those numbers. The Google certification, just to highlight one of them here, really is a very demanding kind of certification process, and you take an exam at the end. But it is, even for experienced Google users, they learned and walked away with new tips and tricks that I think really equipped people to be able to enter into the fall with what we're all kind of working and navigating in new spaces. But those equity cohorts, it also, you could see we had 111 staff enrolled in those, and it was exciting. There were multiple cohorts that ran in 2-week increments, and they were very well received. And I was actually a part of one of them, and just heard some excellent reflection and collaborative learning in those cohorts. So it wasn't just independent, but it was people kind of being vulnerable and sharing. But then also collaboratively and learning as a community, which I think is ultimately what this is about. And then many of you have been familiar with our mindfulness-based stress reduction program, a formal training that Erica Ebert has kind of spearheaded, and you can see those numbers and that ran throughout the year, but we're also focused through the summer. So I think it was an incredibly successful summer, a busy one to be sure. But I think the numbers kind of attest to that in a different way.
Greg, I'm going to jump in just for a second before we go off of that, because I think the most common conversation that Greg and I had this summer was, Brian, we're full on that section. Do you think we could add another section? And it was a common conversation, and we did. We tried to make sure we were fiscally responsible and stay within our budget, but we kept opening more and more sections where the demand was. So thanks, Greg.
No, that's exactly right. And Brian was super gracious with his budget, so we're all thankful for that. The other piece that I know is important to all of us is the way that we invest in our own staff. And we recognize that in so many ways, this new teacher and mentor training, as I have conversations with our mentors, and even as Carm and Brian have both kind of kicked it off, we recognize this is, in our new teachers, this is a 30-year investment. That we're actually kind of paying on the front end in order to get dividends on the back end in some ways. And just as a quick reminder, I'm just so thankful for the work that Dave Swinson has done to kind of re-envision moving away from a teacher orientation that was kind of a one and done program to a much wider induction program. And we've now hit year 3 of a 4-year support system for our staff. And we've got 25 new hires, and that number seems to be growing literally by the minute. So we had a good cohort of teachers, and unsurprising probably to all of us, I think the focus this year, when I have worked with mentors, but then also reinforcing it with these teachers, is about flexibility and support. And that's what we need. We have to, in the midst of this uncertainty, which was our theme for this year, it was, especially with the mentors, it was kind of a really, it was a targeted approach where I put a number of resources into their hands and they processed. And we asked this question, like, what does it look like to teach, to mentor, and to coach in the midst of uncertainty? And we really came to some good conclusions about vulnerability and communication, about relying on relationships, and that social emotional wellness piece being foundational. So we really had an excellent focus. You can see this picture right here from us kind of working with new teachers on one day, and we brought them together for one day, and then the next couple of days were done virtually. So kind of modeling what was going to happen in the school year. And you can kind of see us kind of socially distant in our place, but kind of pushing on that program. So I think we're set up for success, and we will continue to kind of do that throughout this year. Those same 3 focus areas are going to be carried through in our professional learning. I was really, really thankful for our policy board. When we decided about a focus for the school year, we found the success of the summer worth carrying over and repeating and emphasizing again in the school year. And so any proposal that comes in for professional learning needs to be aligned to one of these three priority areas this year. And you know, what you can see right here is just worth mentioning that one of the superintendent's conference days that kind of kicks off our whole learning for the entire year was particularly focused on technology modules, and those were produced by our own teachers. We had a primary section, we had an elementary, middle school, and high school, and they produced these modules, and they were interactive. They had checks for understanding, and teachers had 4 hours on a superintendent's conference day. And what I heard from those teachers was that that was invaluable. And it was, the feedback has been just really positive and encouraging for us that we met a need in the moment, and that really equipped people for what they were going to walk through. And that's what we want to do, and be responsive and flexible and supportive throughout the rest of the year with our own professional learning throughout the year. And we're going to do that in the midst of uncertainty. We want to provide the support. And so those three same areas are going to be continued, sustained learning that we will continue on throughout this year. And it's finally, it's worth mentioning that we are going to continue that with our own leadership team. And you can see here that one of the ways that we designed our learning for the summer retreat that Carm and Brian and the senior leadership team kind of pulled together really was aligned to all three of these, and especially the social emotional learning. We kind of modeled as a leadership team what community circles might look like. And as a good snapshot and microcosm of the work, that work that was done in the community circles in that leadership day then kind of got turnkeyed out into buildings, and now it's happening in classrooms. And I can attest to that because I led my first circle in my classroom this week, as a matter of fact. So it really has made an impact, and I think I could say the same thing for each of the other pieces. But it is those focus areas, I think, that are giving us definition and giving us direction for in the midst of this uncertainty, in the midst of this most unusual year. I think we have a plan forward that will continue to build this always learning vision for Webster.
Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate that. And yeah, as you guys remember, we did our own community circle last year with the board, and I'm sure Janice, although you weren't with us during that time last year, I know I'm sure you've been using those in your profession as well, and over in Greece. So yeah. So all right, at this time, we want to open it up to questions from the board.
Brian and Mr. Elquist, so great job. My question is, we're in a hybrid model and maybe that way for the whole year. Do you feel with the instructional technology you delivered this summer, we can deliver the same quality of education as 100% in school with this hybrid model? And what are the challenges we're facing with that for the year?
I'm going to tell you my personal opinion of anything that we're doing in any district right now is never going to match the 100% in-person teaching from teachers and kids being in the seats and in the classrooms on a daily basis. So anything we do will never match that, in my opinion. We will do everything we can to, given the circumstance, given the resources that we have, to try and make as much, like Carmen likes to say, the lemonade as we possibly can with this. And I do believe it is going to be different, Mike. It's not going to be what we experienced in March, April, and May, and June. And we've told that to parents, and I know teachers know that as well. This is a situation where there's going to be more accountability than there was back in the springtime. In the springtime, we all just got hit with something, and we had to do our absolute best with that. Would I want this scenario to continue on after this year or however long we need to go with this? No way. I want to get back to, like Jen Sullivan was saying earlier about teachers and how we have amazing staff that combine the science and the art of teaching, but you got to do that in the classroom. That's where the magic can happen. Now, saying that, it's happening now, and it's happening in a lot of great ways using technology and expanding upon that. And we've put resources towards that, and that will continue. We're making decisions right now on adding some resources as of today and yesterday that will help teachers that have come to us and said it would be helpful if we had this, this, or this. And so we're working with our instructional technology team to make that happen for teachers. So I don't know, Mike, if I totally answered your question, but I will say this. I'm going to give you one example. Greg was talking about the 4-hour module block that we did on Superintendent's Conference Day. One thing I liked about that came from our own teachers and our own staff, and it's adapted to Webster, but they can go back on those modules at any time. They can go back and keep looking at things that they might have missed or might have not remembered exactly something about that, which will help them throughout the entire year. And it's almost like we built some incredible professional development that's now on demand.
And I can attest to that. I just went back the other day to find a link for one of our new teachers and pulled up that slide deck. And as I pulled it up, there were about 7 other teachers that were on that same slide deck that had links to all the other resources. So I think it actually is functioning just not only the immediate need, but then it becomes a place where we can go back and kind of access resources. So I think it is functioning that way. And here's just a quick anecdotal response to what your question was. So today in my class, I did an informal poll because they had just come off their first virtual day on Wednesday with their, and so I just kind of asked the question. I was like, so which do you prefer? Just kind of off the cuff. Which do you prefer, kind of in person or kind of that online? And it was about between 10 and 15% actually preferred the online, but it was overwhelming. The students that preferred actually to be in person. So I think we are prepared in many ways, but it is worth mentioning that there is a percentage of students that actually prefers learning in that way. And so we're actually meeting a need that we might not in other ways for some students. And even though they may not be the majority, we serve all students. So I think that this is one way that we can do that.
Thank you.
Sue, go ahead. You're on mute, Sue.
Can you tell me a little bit about the policy board for professional development? Who's on the board and what do they do?
Sure, Greg.
No,
Greg, take that.
Sue, no, you cannot join the board. You can't do more policy.
I know it's not the same.
That's great.
So we have a policy board that does exactly what it says in the sense. It sets policy for professional learning throughout the year. We have representatives from every building. Then we have a couple of parent representatives that are on the board. We have administrators, and then we have we have actually some community liaisons that also serve on the board. And the purpose and function of it really is to cast vision, and then also to allocate those resources that we do have. And so there's kind of 2 big buckets that we have of resources that we do have some contractual money that's built into the contract, as you probably well know. But then we also receive funding from the New York State Teacher Center. And so we also kind of vote on that. And so they really do what has been one of the shifts that we've made with the policy board is that it's not just about policy, but they become communicators and liaisons to the buildings. And so that has been a nice shift where we have kind of equipped and tried to empower them, not only to kind of set some policy and make decisions, which is extremely important, but also to be able to implement it and to lead it and then to be a resource in their building and a point person, if you will, for professional learning. And so obviously in some ways I'm working closely with them, but it also, I just want to mention too, the other person that works so closely with me is Daria Perazzi, and she is kind of the administrative assistant for professional learning. She does an amazing job, and so I could not do this work, especially this year, without her. But it is representative of that larger team that helps make professional learning happen in the district.
So was it the policy board that came up with I'm not sure what you're calling them, but maybe the core beliefs of professional development?
Yeah, those focus areas especially. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting process where we are able to kind of take some of that input and then I will take that I kind of craft a little bit of vision, work collaboratively with a number of them, and then also administrators. And then we present that. And when I took that and gave the report about the summer to that board, it was the consensus was it was actually unanimous that, yeah, that's what we need to continue. So that is the encouraging work that the board.
Good. Well, I was very impressed when I just read it in our board packet, and I do appreciate how quickly you guys, modified professional development and adjusted and were flexible with our current circumstances. So I think it was really a good benefit for our staff and obviously for our students. So thank you.
And I'm not just saying this to say this, but that doesn't happen without good senior district leadership. That there is a willingness to actually pivot and reimagine what it can look like, because a lot of times a system as big as ours, you just do what you've always done, especially when it's been successful. But the willingness to kind of shift and think outside the box is a credit to the leadership of this district.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Your $20 is coming in the mail, Greg. Thank you.
It's actually going to ask which leadership, the administrative leadership or the board leadership?
Oh, both. Yeah, both.
Yes. Yes.
Good answer.
Linda, I think you had a question. Linda?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. This year is different. It's starting out much different. It's, as personally, just watching my son and his peers. And you can tell that there was a lot of hard work and a lot of effort on many, many people's parts to get this to deliver this new platform of learning to these students, and to see them excited to get online for Virtual Wednesday yesterday, knowing that they had to be accountable to their teachers and to the peers that were there. So I appreciate, and I want to say thank you for all that effort all this summer, because parents are noticing. As a parent, I'm noticing, and also hearing this report, there is a huge difference, and it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Anyone else? All right, thank you so much on behalf of all of us for the report, and hope we'll continue to hear updates throughout the year on how well things are going and how things adjust and develop, because we expect that will occur as well. But having completed that, can we have a motion, please, to accept the report?
So moved.
I see Saf, second. Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Greg and Brian, thank you both so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
Students
Dan.
appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Greg.
Have a nice evening. Moving on, Brian, you may not take any offense, but jump in as we move to tax certiorari and STAR update and tax rate summaries.
And do you want me? I could share my screen because I'll make it a little bit bigger.
Sure.
It's somewhere around here.
Just had it.
All right. There we go. I think we got it. So this is the annual tradition, like the Masters. All of our tax certiorari cases against the district have now come in. We got the last couple a little later this year because the rolls were delayed until a little later in July because of the COVID emergency. There was a delay in those. So these are the new ones for 2020-21 that have been filed against the district. Some are previous tax certiorari's against the district. Some are brand new. Some have been settled as well. And then the previous claim years, so those are ones that aren't new for 2020-21, but are still outstanding. So you can see a large bulk of previous claims that didn't come in new in 2020 to 21 against the district are still out there, still ongoing from previous years before. Some go as far back as 16, 17. In at least 5 years. So those are the new listing and the possible exposures that the district has right now as an update. And then just to where are we fiscally to offset those possible cases. Currently the district has $3.4 million in the tax certiorari reserve. So we access that as necessary as these claims come up. In my 6 years here, we've only not been able to come to a resolution in one of these cases. We went all the way to trial with one of them, and actually it was not a favorable result for us. So there's a buffer there in case things like that do happen. And even though we have more in the reserve than current total liability, we do have a very large corporation sitting in the district with past experience with assessment challenges. If you go all the way back to the 90s, we utilized over roughly $10 million in our savings, reserve savings, to settle those challenges. So it's never a bad thing, and we're always consulting with our attorneys on these and our auditors, and they know the risk the district has and the uniqueness of that property in the district. So they have very little issue with us trying to build that reserve up for any kind of anticipated cases. So like I said, we intercede in all of these to minimize that, that impact and potential refunds. 4 cases, one you saw was zeroed out on this list because we were able to do that simultaneously to them filing for 2021. The Empire Boulevard, Water's Edge, Northwest Savings Bank, and Cheney Properties. So that's the first part. These, come in every year. These are large commercial properties. Generally, they're cases over properties that are worth more than $750,000. But then if you notice, we also get about 100, this was an average year. I was actually quite surprised. 152 claims for what we call SCAR decisions, or small claims assessment reviews. Those come in. They're a quick 2-page form that a homeowner can fill out to challenge their assessment. As you can see, we get them all from Webster and Penfield. So these 152 properties total in Webster $54.2 million in assessed value, and in Penfield a little over $7 million. When they challenge, it's for a reduction. So you could see the total of the 152 properties, what they want to be reduced would bring the new totals to. And then what's our risk? So if every single one of these 152 claims was adjudicated in their behalf on the homeowners, this would be the total liability the district would have, about $400,000 that we would need to pay out. This never happens. Generally, it's either nope, assessment is withheld, or a little bit impact, or I've never seen it go completely to what is claimed on the challenge. So that's where we're at with those. Generally, we have a budget line item for $10,000. We usually are somewhere right around there every year on the small claims assessment reviews, that we are $10,000, give or take $1,000 here or there. Like I said, with the COVID challenges, I was actually quite surprised that we did not see more of these. We were expecting, Lisa and I were expecting to be inundated with those, but it peaked and leveled off peaked early, then leveled off. So we were right about average with these claims. Any questions on that?
So Brian, just so I understand, you're saying of the 379,000 in risk, we're only gonna pay about 10,000 on average?
Generally, yep. That's what ends up happening.
You're the man.
Oh,
That's impressive.
I could admit that I have nothing to do with these. These are all adjudicated outside of. We don't intercede. It would be extremely timely and not a very effective use of our district resources, because most of the refunds are a couple $100, and we'd spend $1,000 in legal fees to challenge these. So we generally let these go because they're small property owners to the administrative law judge.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Are we okay? I see this is for information only.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for all your efforts and for sharing that information with us. Moving on to the New York State School Board Association voting
we have
delegate.
one more thing,
Oh,
Amy. Yep.
Yes.
So we have some new tax rates for 2 towns. A lot changed after, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but in my world, a lot changed after we had the board set the rates on August 13th. We did have changes, mainly due to STAR. I think really threw things off this year. It's like a 3-part process here between the town assessors, the county, ourselves at the district, and the state. And what was going on last minute was the state was coming into the system without people knowing and adjusting STAR properties. So it was throwing data and information off. So we had some assessment changes in STAR data after we adopted our rates. We were able to get the correct information in time for the bills to go out. So you see actually a reduction in the tax rates, small reduction, but a reduction nonetheless compared to what the board adopted for Penfield and Webster on August 13th. So this formal change bringing to the board to make you guys aware that what was presented and approved on August 13th for these 2 towns did in fact change before the bills went out. So just wanted to have the board take action on that.
Okay, then can we have a motion, please, to accept the adjusted rates?
So moved.
Thanks, Seth. Second?
Getting muted. So moved.
Thanks, Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. Sorry I interrupted.
Oh, no problem. That was the real important one that we needed to act on.
Okay. And now moving on to the New York State School Board Association voting delegate. I think, our conversations have been, we really appreciate our relationships within Monroe County and receive a lot of information there that is based on our relationships with other members within Monroe County school districts. And although we don't want to give up our voting and representation rights, so Sue is going to be our representative.
Yeah, I can just register, or maybe Cindy can register me just as a delegate. You don't have to pay to go to the conference. The business meeting is just Saturday.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, and that's Zoom as well?
I believe so.
Virtual, okay.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
That's
thank
why I
you for being willing
volunteer.
to do that on our behalf.
Sure. Do you want to have a conversation on the resolutions prior to the meeting, or you know, maybe I could read them and just at the next meeting just tell you the ones that I wasn't sure that I agreed with what the recommendations were? I mean, how do you want to do that? I mean, it can be a little time consuming if we try to do it as a whole board at a board meeting.
To read through them all. Agreed. I am interested to at least read through some of them. You know, in many cases, a lot of it is not applicable, but there may be extenuating circumstances this year. So I suppose by the next meeting, if we're ready to discuss anything that comes to anyone's attention, is that okay?
Sure. I'm fine with that if everyone else is. I think basically we can just discuss the ones that we are not sure we agree with the recommendations. Because they usually put them in two buckets. Ones that the board agrees with and ones that they don't.
Right.
Or they support and not support.
Okay. Yep, I think that's a great idea. Thank you again for being willing to do that.
Sure.
And the action would be in the form of the registration for you to be the delegate?
Yep, Cindy can do that for me.
Read that. Okay, all right, terrific. Then moving on to old business, school liaison reports. I know all the PTSA meetings, almost all of them are on the central PTSA page. And most all are Zoom or Google Meet. So if anybody has anything they'd like to share, I know all these meetings are just getting off the ground as everybody's tending to just getting past the beginning of the school year. Saf, what do you got?
Well, at Clem North, the students were eagerly and safely welcomed back, both in person and virtually. And the incoming kindergarten students, they received a Clem North shirt. And the arrival and dismissal procedures that they have at Clem North, they seem to be working. And the administration will continue to tweak them. They'll tweak the process in order to be more safer and more efficient. And this past Friday, the administration distributed flowers to all the parents during dismissal because they were so happy with all the parents' patience and their partnership. And this is true of all the buildings, but really there should be kudos to the custodial staffs for getting our buildings clean and ready. And kudos to all the instructional staff that did a wonderful job for preparing our classrooms to meet the social distancing and the space guidelines.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to everyone involved. I know a lot of the secondary schools had sidewalk chalk messaging for the kids. Welcome back. We've missed you.
All 11 buildings. PTSA did that in all 11.
All
cool.
11.
Yeah.
Great. Does anybody else have anything to add on behalf of the liaison reports? Okay. Moving on to Monroe County Steering Committee. Most of the conversation was about school reopening and districts working through their different instruction models and challenges that they're facing, eagerly anticipating fall sports. And there will be a focus on structural racism and equity. So moving forward, how those discussions unfold. Most of the meetings will be conducted in person at the Doubletree Hotel. So I look forward to attending those. And the Legislative Committee, Sue or Maria, do you have anything you want to speak to there?
I went to the meeting, I think it was last Wednesday. I did send you, I think I sent the board a report, didn't I? The legislative update as well as my notes. Anyway, basically this year it's going to be about funding and mandate relief. That's really what we're going to be working on. Getting the money flowing, hopefully, between advocating at the federal level and the state level, and then looking for some mandate relief.
Okay, thank you. And then labor relations, Linda or Saf, I don't know if a meeting has happened already.
We're going to meet on the 30th.
Okay, right. And same is true for information exchange. There's a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday. It is at the Doubletree at noon about reflections on virtual learning. So 2 presenters from West Arundecoit and Hilton. So that should be something that we can bring back and hopefully share out. Executive committee, same as all these things are just being scheduled as we speak. Standing district committees, I believe the same will hold true. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add on behalf of their committee?
I would just say that I'm thinking maybe maybe Cindy could send out a few dates for policy mid-October-ish. Would that give everyone enough time to get started in the school year? I know. Mid-October? Cindy, would you mind sending out a few dates? That'd be great.
Will do.
And I don't know if we want to do it virtually or in person. Virtually, you know, it's easier to schedule probably. But it's such a small group of people, we could certainly do it in person as well. We can just take a straw poll, Cindy, if you want.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Can I just give a plug for the Webster Health Education Network? Maria and I are both on that committee. It meets once a month on Wednesdays. It's actually the second Wednesday of the month. They now have a full-time executive director, Janine Sanger, and they also have Krista Gross is also working with her, as well as Jen DeGrace is doing a lot of the website building and some communication. Their big push now is for membership. They're trying to increase people within Webster to join. And they're also looking at ways this year to collaborate with the district at different PTSAs to get the word out there about the coalition, just to get some name recognition. So as it moves along, I'll bring more and more to the board. But if everybody has an opportunity, I encourage you, their website is up and running, that visit it and join. There's a ton of information on there. So yeah, I think that's it. Maria, do you, anything?
No, I think you covered everything, but it's exciting. Exciting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Similarly, I guess I can provide a brief update on behalf of fire. Meetings are scheduled throughout the entire year, and some of the goals in ways that we're going to work to develop infrastructure and communication will be similar to what we do for PTSA. So we're building a document that contains all of the PTSA meetings, and we'll be able to share that out, so that the goal would be that the communications and updates are the same across all 11 buildings. So we look forward to all of these processes kind of taking shape for all of us. And with that, moving on to the consent agenda. Everyone's had the opportunity to review all the items therein. Any questions or comments? Okay, then can we have a motion, please, to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mike Suff, second by Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, motion carries. And with that, we'll wish everyone a continuing safe and healthy year. Be well, wear masks, social distance. Take care, very good to see everyone, and we look forward to when we can be live. So can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Linda, second by Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Bye, everybody.
Night, everyone.